This weather pattern is about to get very active, especially as we head into your Easter weekend. So let's break down the details for you in this update, expand the view this afternoon, and take a look at the North American 500 millibar. And we've got a ridge of high pressure that's pretty much going to be dominating a good part of the lower 48. Further to the north, we do have some colder pocket aloft. That is going to bring down some cooler air down there from Canada, and this system will actually dive east southeastward into your Monday afternoon and likely link up with some instability around Ohio back into West Virginia. Those could in fact turn severe with some large hail producers and unfortunately an isolated tornado threat within that region. But notice off the coast, we've got a trough that's just going to be taking its sweet time. But before that, it's really going to be fueling the atmosphere, and these things are going to heat up in a big way, especially for today. We could be looking at some serious record-breaking temperatures across the south and the southern plains. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm. Take a look at the overall high temperatures for today, and these are your potential record highs with that ridge of high pressure locked over the southern plains. And that's not a misprint, folks. This is way too early to see upper 90s, if not 100 degrees down there in Texas and portions of Oklahoma. In fact, that's going to unfold today. Look at the surge lifting all the way across into the plains. There is that cooler pocket aloft that will be diving into Montana, portions of the Dakotas. That's going to traverse across the northern tier into the Great Lakes and actually bring some chillier air before we could get some severe storms on tomorrow. So if we look at the overall 500 wind speed, yeah, we've got a pretty significant dip in the jet stream, and this jet streak is shooting out ahead of it. And then heading into your Monday afternoon during peak heating, we could have conditions unfold to produce severe storms across this region back into Columbus as well as into Cincinnati, getting all the way into Charleston region, back into the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania region, could shift into the evening time frame, get as far east as the Baltimore area. But if we fine tune it and take a look at, we kind of zoom in around 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon, wow, these are some pretty nasty supercells that could unfold. These are some isolated larger hail. If this does in fact come to fruition, we could have some golf ball size hail out of this deal, especially as we hit towards that peak heating. And unfortunately, those conditions are also favorable to produce some isolated tornadoes, and those will be traversing east southeast, maybe even more further east trajectory, but it looks to continue to be on its course. So right around 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, definitely be on high alert into Ohio, back into West Virginia, and those swing into Pennsylvania as well. These also could be some larger hail producers and unfortunately some tornadic spin-ups. That's why they in fact have an elevated risk for tornadoes as we head into Monday afternoon. Your favored time frame would likely be around 5 to say 9 o'clock, and that window definitely be on high alert because you're probably going to be under at least a weather watch across this region. But once that moves through, we do have a little bit of a dip in the overall temperatures. Yet again, another cooler air mass enters back in the picture as a quick shot of cooler air will be coming and diving southbound. So that'll at least put a reprieve on the severe weather for at least a couple of days as we see those 5, 10, if not almost 15 degrees below average temperature anomalies start to include those areas into Kentucky, back into Tennessee, and this dives all the way down into the southeast, and even Florida will experience those cooler like air mass while the ridge builds out west as we head into that Tuesday time frame. But on Tuesday afternoon, after they kind of move through further to the north, we'll still be producing some snow, believe it or not. I mean, it's still winter up there into Quebec and Ontario. That's, winter's trying to definitely hang on for them, and especially there into Maine. They've been getting a lot of snow lately, and they've got some more instability and some even some high temperatures back into the 30s for them. So it's definitely chilly if you live further north across areas of New England. And as we head into Wednesday, especially going to Thursday, I think things start to get really interesting, because we'll start to see that low pressure center that's going to be kind of hanging off the West Coast will finally kind of move ashore, and that is going to be diving down into Southern California, back into the Four Corners region, and it's going to take its sweet time. It's likely going to just kind of hang tight for a day or so while it sends out pulses of energy out ahead of the main system. Often we refer to these as little short waves, and our first one could likely set up around portions of Iowa, because look at the moisture return. This is fairly significant, something we have not actually seen so far yet, with the moisture surge all the way up into Iowa. So far, Iowa has been kind of unscathed with a lot of the severe storms, but they're going to be in the bullseye, especially on Thursday, as that moisture return surges well north and a low pressure center sets up just off to your west. That puts you in a kind of prime and more favored conditions to produce some isolated severe storms. Would also be some larger hail producers and some low-end tornado threat, with this low pressure center likely is trying to deepen. You can see the tight isobars. It's definitely going to be some damaging windstorms across this region, but look how far north it goes. It goes well up into Minnesota. So we could be looking at more of an elevated risk, even swinging further north for them. So as we look at the 500 wind speed and kind of look at the upper level air pattern, we can see the main system, the main parent low, will be hanging off the coast of California. This will be on your Thursday into Friday afternoon, while again we send out these little impulses of energy out ahead of it into the plains, linking up with this cool front that's going to be kind of diving southbound, and that will link up with some instability. So we start to look at some of the Cape values as we get into more prime time severe weather season, unfortunately, which is typically your most active time once you go into, say, that middle part of April, especially as we head into the middle part of May. We're getting into the most favored time of severe storm season, where we likely see the largest hail and unfortunately more tornadoes that could unfold, and going into a more active time frame, especially as we kick off Friday, heading into your Easter weekend, because your Cape values are going to be elevated, approaching the 3,000 level. That's plenty of fuel, especially as the moisture return likely promises surges well north in Missouri, back into Illinois, and this puts this whole area across the central and southern plains into play for severe storms, especially with elevated water vapor continuing to pump in and taking advantage of those higher dew points. This atmosphere is going to get pretty moist across this region, and there's the low pressure center. It continues to kind of hang off the coast, so it's going to take its sweet time, which is likely going to be beneficial for those areas into the desert Southwest. You're going to actually see those temperatures drop into, say, Tucson and the Phoenix region, where you hit 100 degrees the other day. You could be looking at highs in the 70s by the time we head into that Friday and Saturday time frame, with, believe it or not, even some rain showers as well around. But it all kicks off on Friday with a round of severe storms that will likely break out essentially from Texas to Oklahoma into Missouri, back into Illinois, as well as Indiana, and it could reach as far north as Michigan here. As we head into the evening time frame on Friday, this could be only the beginning of what things to come as a very much more active period. But if we take it out west again, there is the vorticity again, still out there off the West Coast, really taking its sweet time. And as it does, it's going to bring down some of that cooler air, and they're going to be taking advantage of it. A welcome reprieve for those areas across the desert Southwest. They've been bone dry, so any little moisture that you can squeeze out of that atmosphere, they'll certainly take. But out ahead of it in the warm sector across the plains, we've got another round of likely severe storms as we head into your Saturday. And I think it even more amplifies even further as we head into your Easter time frame. So there's the setup on Saturday afternoon. We've got, yes, that is some rain showers that will be over those areas of Utah, back into Arizona, likely sneaks into New Mexico, but the dry line gets active in Texas and across Oklahoma, and that could link up with a cool front as well, setting the stage for more severe storms. So right now it's kind of too far out. This would be next weekend. This is Saturday and Sunday. So right now the Storm Prediction Center is holding off on issuing any day 7 or day 8 risk, but the analog guidance is already hinting at a little bit more favorable probabilities, especially as we link it up with the plains, as all the dynamics are starting to come together as, again, of a very active weekend for those areas across Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, back into the plains region. So we'll be fine-tuning this on a daily basis on this channel to keep you well ahead of the storm, but just look out for right now for your Easter weekend, because we are going to have a lot of shear. So unfortunately, this would put tornadoes possible back into the picture for those areas into Texas, as well as into the plains of Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, even likely Missouri, could reach as far north as Iowa. So we'll be breaking down the details as the dynamics get a little closer, but all the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together, as the first wave will come in on Friday, another wave will come in Saturday, and I think an even a bigger impulse of energy unfortunately lines up for Sunday for those areas into Texas, Oklahoma, into Kansas, across the southern plains. And if we take it a step beyond that, most of the longer range CFS guidance still hinting at, once we get towards that Easter weekend, it's not going to stop there. We're going to be seeing relentless systems with more troughs coming in out west. We'll start to see the eastern area start to warm up. That typically spells trouble and a perfect alignment for storms with that likely will be severe, with troughs continuing to come in off the west coast, pumping into that moisture supply across the deep south into the southern plains. So between the 20th and the 26th time frame, expect more active weather across the southern plains and a good part of the Missouri Valley. And it doesn't stop there. As we flip the calendar into May, it likely continues for a lot of the same areas across the plains and the central plains. So do expect, appreciate the lull that we have right now, at least for the next couple of days, because it really starts to ramp up big time going into your Easter weekend. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update. Why protect you before and after the storm.